Well, we had Pro Bowl games end this weekend, and we also had some very insane trades in the NBA, like right before All Star weekend, which is crazy. Just for context, the Lakers traded for a generational superstar, and they had to give up the only big man, the real amazing big man they had in Anthony Davis. They had to get Luka Doncic with LeBron, and let me tell you, for both teams, I don't know if it's going to work out in the end. Here's the thing, it's literally almost like Russell Westbrook and James Harden on the Rockets. There was also a time when Kawhi Leonard and PG-13 were on the Clippers. You don't know who those are. PG-13 is Paul George. And there's also something called the Big Three on the Nets. Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and James Harden. That didn't work either. My point is, you got a couple different people, like All-Stars, All-NBA players. They both want the ball. There's not enough balls to go around. There's only one basketball. There's two players that want the ball on that team. For the Lakers, I'm not sure how that is going to work out, but hopefully they figure out something, because if they don't, they're fucked. As for the Mavericks, I don't know what in the hell their GM was doing. He's probably an idiot, because I don't understand why you do that. Luka Doncic was untouchable, and you traded him to LA for one first-round pick and Anthony Davis, and there was also one other player as well in there that was irrelevant. Well, the Jazz actually had a part in that trade as well, but yeah, we really didn't care. It was just 2 second-round picks and some player from the LA that is just non-existent at this point. But enough of those basketball shit, man. Let's get into football. Welcome back to Grizzly Talks Football. It's the Grizz, and this week we only got one thing going on. It's going to be a short video because today we are doing head coach reviews for the 2024 season. Yes, I know. The season's not over yet. We still got one more game. I'm talking about regular season, really. And also some sort of playoffs, but you know what I mean. Anyways, if you are new to this series, make sure you check out the link in the description with the entire playlist of episodes that you can catch yourself up on by watching every single one of them. You also have it for future episodes for this season. We only got 2 left for this season. Well, I could do an off-season one, but that's probably going to be next season. Also, make sure you hit the red subscribe button and hit the notification bell so you don't miss a single one of my videos. Without further ado, let's get to some head coach reviews. Anyways, we got the head coach reviews for the 2024 NFL season. We got 5 tiers. I'm going to go through them all just briefly. First tier, we got exceeding expectations. What that means is people expected you to be mid or average, and you turn out to be really good. That's the definition of exceeding expectations. You do better than what people were expecting you to be, like the general consensus. Mean expectations, you obviously have to make sure you meet those expectations that were set by your team. Mid, it's you were okay, you slightly failed expectations, but not too much that it really hurt the momentum of your team. We also got failed expectations, means that you failed at the expectations. And then our last tier, hit it, John. Ass. Let's kick things off with our first candidate here. It is Dennis Allen. Ass. He had such a good start, and of course it had to come in the beginning of the season, and then of course the downward spiral. Injuries happened, very bad team play, lots of turnovers, Spencer Rattler looking more like a bust every day. This whole team was just a disaster. Yes, he did get fired midway through the season, and the Saints continued to suck. In fact, they were last in the NFC South, tied with the Panthers, but because the Panthers had a tiebreaker, New Orleans was 4th. Just an absolute horrific scene for New Orleans fans, because they had such high hopes with the Derek Carr, Alvin Kamara, Chris Olave thing, but it just went south. Up next, we got Todd Bowles. I mean, he's not bad, he's not great, he's just mid. I think everybody saw that coming. Here's the thing, Tampa Bay did win the division, but it wasn't exactly because of Todd Bowles. If you have a guy by the name of Baker Mayfield playing quarterback for you, throwing to Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, I know he got hurt, but you also have a very solid defense, you're going to win 10 games like the Bucs did this season. Sadly, they lost to the Commanders in the wild card round, which ended their playoff hopes early, which really sucks for them. Considering they actually pulled off an upset against Philadelphia in last year's wild card game, and unfortunately for them, it just wasn't the same because Chris Godwin ended up getting hurt. Let me just say, if Chris Godwin did not get hurt, they would have won this division by 3 games, and they would have made it past the first round. Very unfortunate. I would say failed expectations for Todd Bowles, but I don't think it's fair because the team played as expected, but it wasn't really because of Bowles. That's why I put him at mid-tier. Up next, we got Brian Callahan of the Titans. Besides the defense in the running room, this team really sucked. Defense plays subpar sometimes, but the quarterback play has been just abysmal. I don't think it's his fault. I'm more going to say failed expectations. Let me say they were not supposed to be the worst team in the league, a team that's getting the number 1 pick this year. Let me say that. The fact that Will Levis and Mason Rudolph are your starting 2 quarterbacks, there is a big problem in Nashville. Tony Pollard had a great season for his standards. He got over 1,000 yards. There was also great defensive performances by the defense. Well, more subpar. Scoring defense, not so much. But all in all, this team was just bad. Callahan was just dealt a bad hand. Up next, we got Dan Campbell. Before you say exceeded expectations, let me tell you something. Detroit was supposed to be really good. They were supposed to be Super Bowl contenders, I'm very sure. That is the reason why I'm putting him in met expectations. Yes, the 15-2 record was very impressive. And Jared Goff's efficiency rating, along with the super powerhouse of running back duo in Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery were special, and did everything else on the team. However, they were expected to be that good. They were expected to be the top seed of the NFC, and unfortunately, I think that playoff game definitely hurt him. If he would have gotten exceeded expectations, or at least made it to the NFC Championship game again, or even won it, he would have probably been exceeded expectations. But right now, he's in met expectations. Sorry, Dan. Up next, we got Dave Canales of the Panthers. I would say more of he met expectations. I'm not going to put him in exceeded expectations just yet, because Panthers still have a lot of work to do. They were one of the worst teams in the league until they weren't. Carolina had a bad start. Bryce got benched for Andy Dalton. And then as soon as Bryce Young came back, he turned into a completely different player. It's like going from Ryan Leaf to... I can't remember. What is it called? I'm trying to remember the name. Oh, right. Sort of a Josh Allen or more of a Joe Montana kind of thing. Joe Montana with mobility, should I say. They may have been 5-12, but they were playing better than the record showed. This team should have been 8-9 or 9-8 at best. I am very hopeful for Carolina's future, as much as it hurts being a Falcons fan, because we might have some competition in the South, the NFC South, should I say. But Dave Canales has been doing a very shockingly surprising job of rebuilding this Panthers team. Hopefully, Bryce Young can get a receiving core that will actually have hands to catch the ball and be able to score points, and have a defense that can stop the other team from getting points. The defense was the worst in the league. Receiving core, you only had Adam Thielen, Jalen Coker, and Xavier Leggett. That's it. Up next, we got Brian Daboll. Yeah, he just flat out just failed expectations. Nothing really too major. He's not a complete ass. Say what you want about Brian Daboll. The Giants roster was just terrible ever since Saquon left. That is more on the fault of the management that let Saquon walk and allow Daniel Jones to get an extension. Let me just say, Daniel Jones is nowhere near a franchise quarterback. He's lucky he even got to the playoffs in 2022, let alone winning a playoff game. Former Coach of the Year. Giants have the 3rd pick in the draft. They're probably not going to get a quarterback, assuming the Browns and Titans pick quarterbacks. It's going to be rough for New York for the next few years, maybe 5 or 6 years. And to no fault of Brian Daboll, he got screwed. Up next, we got Matt Eberflus. Ass. Let me say Thomas Brown was no better, but God, this guy sucked as a head coach. Defense was one of the best. Unfortunately for the offense, Caleb Williams just kept getting sacked. Offensive line sucked. DeAndre Swift had an okay year. Not the best in his career, but he was alright. And that receiving core for the Bears was just very underwhelming. It was literally just DJ Moore and sometimes Keenan Allen. That's it. Bad coaching decisions, unable to call a timeout. What in the hell was Eberflus doing in that time that he was the Bears head coach? You have to be one of the worst coaches ever to be fired by the Bears, be the very first Bears coach to be fired midway through the season. Up next, we got Jonathan Gannon of the Cardinals. I don't think he's anywhere near being ass. It's just Kyler Murray is just not the future of the Cardinals. I'm going to put him at mid. Yeah, I think that's a fair place to put him. They were leading the division for a few weeks because that division was just so chaotic. What the hell? Defense was very underrated. They were one of top 15, maybe top 20. But they were definitely a very solid defense. But offense, a little bit inconsistent. James Conner was doing well. Trey McBride had a good season. Just everything else was just a little underwhelming. Underrated defense and an underwhelming offense really did not result to much. That's why they were 7-10 this season? Up next, we got Jim Harbaugh in his first year with the Chargers. Okay, this is the first one that actually exceeded expectations. No one was expecting the Chargers to make it that far, especially with a new head coach. I don't think I was expecting the Chargers to be 11-6 with a 5 seed in Harbaugh's first year with a new team. Defense was one of the best in the league, at least in scoring defense. I mean, they had some good yardage defense as well. Offense was a little subpar. Dobbins had an okay year. He's just got hurt again. This team has some potential to go a long way. We just need Justin Herbert to get some weapons. The best weapon he has looks like a slot receiver. It's not going to work out just with Ladd McConkey and sometimes Quentin Johnston. By the way, Quentin Johnston had a great bounce back year in my eyes. He actually did pretty decently. But this Chargers defense definitely has a long way to go. Or at least the Chargers team has a long way to go before he can really contend for a title. But Jim Harbaugh's doing a nice job so far. Up next, we got John Harbaugh. As much as people want to say he exceeded expectations, I'm going to go with met expectations because everybody was expecting the Ravens to be good. Harbaugh is a really good coach. I really do think he is a good coach. It's just 2-point conversions are not his forte. It just sucks that he has a defense that is in a bend, don't break kind of situation almost every single time the opposing team gets in the red zone. But besides that, the rushing defense and rushing offense was the best in the league. I mean, come on, when you got guys like Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, you're bound to have one of the best rushing offenses in the league, and that's a fact. Passing offense was solid as well. I mean, Lamar Jackson's an MVP candidate. Derrick Henry almost had 2,000 yards this season. There was only one guy that had it. I will let you know who that is a little bit later, but you probably know who that is. A pretty solid defense, a division title, and an elite offense, especially in the rushing game, resulted in a 3 seed and I believe a 12-5 or 11-6, I can't remember. They were so close to making it back to the AFC Championship. Unfortunately, the Bills had something to say, but it was all for naught because the Chiefs made it to the Super Bowl anyway. And that really pisses me off, the thought of the Chiefs being in the Super Bowl. Seriously, I don't know why the NFL has to be such a absolute asshole. Anyways, let's get back on track. Up next, we have Matt LaFleur. He definitely met expectations. Like, 7th seed again. Jordan Love unfortunately got hurt. If he didn't get hurt, I'm very sure they would be in exceed expectations. But unfortunately, Malik Willis happened to play. He actually did solid. I think they were kind of better off without Jordan Love, but at the same time, Jordan Love is the better passer of the two. Josh Jacobs had an incredible year. Receiving core got really involved. Packers defense, I mean, a lot of the NFC North defenses were very solid this year. It was amazing to see how the season unfolded. The Packers were just the third wheel to Detroit, Minnesota. It's kind of what we expected. Unfortunately, they couldn't beat the Eagles. They kind of brought them down to the wire for a while, but then, yeah, Eagles pulled away. But at the end of the day, everyone expected the Packers to be good, but not good enough to make it far in the playoffs. Up next, we got Mike Macdonald. I'll say he met expectations. It wasn't too bad. He had a good season. 10-7 and still missed the playoffs, unfortunately. Geno Smith had a solid year. Seems like JSN is the best receiver on that team. Running back Kenneth Walker went down, and rushing offense was pretty stagnant until Charbonnet broke out in the last few games. Defense was pretty okay. It wasn't great, but it wasn't bad. That unit also got injured. Just sucks that some of these teams' seasons get ruined by injuries, and it costs them a playoff spot. But Mike Macdonald actually did a pretty nice job of keeping his team composed, making sure they can take advantage of mistakes, and he actually turned out to be a good head coach, at least for this season. Unfortunately for him, he just couldn't make the playoffs as a double-digit win team. Up next, we got Jared Mayo. Here's the thing, people want me to put him in ass. Dude, it's not his fault that he got dealt a bad hand. I'm putting him in failed expectations. Fight me about it. Here's the problem, Jared Mayo had one of the worst rosters, maybe in recent memory, and he gets fired after one season because the Patriots wanted to hire Coach Vrabel. It still doesn't make sense that Tennessee fired Mike Vrabel despite him being a very good coach. You know what, instead of having failed expectations, I'm going to put him in Delta bad hand because he had an awful roster. Drake May is looking like he could be a decent quarterback in the league. It's just his receivers are Demario Douglas, Kayshon Boutte, and that's pretty much it. Ian Hunter Henry, along with Ramondre Stevenson at running back. It's really bad. And the defense, oh boy, not very good. What is Mayo supposed to do? He has such a roster that is complete ass, and he gets fired after one season? Come on, man. Are you for real? By the way, New England, good luck with Coach Vrabel and good luck with potentially Travis Hunter. Up next, we got Mike McCarthy. Ass. There's no other tier I could put him in. This guy's a fucking clown. Seriously? He's really pretty much a puppet at this point. And you know who the puppet master is? I bet you already know. His name is Jerry Jones. The only more clown than Mike McCarthy is Jerry. Dude, what the fucking hell are you doing, Jones? You hired Brian Schottenheimer as your head coach? Oh yeah, guess who was the freaking offensive coordinator? The Cardinals O-line coach. Guess what rank the Cardinals O-line was this season? Second to last. This can't get any more laughable. Not exactly his fault, but the fact that he is a puppet, coaching for a puppet master really puts him in ass tier. This Cowboys team sucked. And it's not just because of Dak Prescott's injury. Quarterbacks after Dak Prescott, well, the fact that Cooper Rush played the entire rest of the season instead of Trey Lance, it was bad. It was horrible. Up next, we got Mike McDaniel. Jesus, a lot of Mikes and Mike Mix. Come on, NFL, really? I would say more of failed expectations. Like, people are expecting Miami to be a playoff contender of some sort, or at least have a winning record, but they did neither. Tua's injury, like, dude, Tua, you need to stop using your head. You need to start sliding. Defense wasn't bend or break in most of the games. When Tua was down and he was injured, the quarterback position sucked. Your quarterbacks were Skylar Thompson and Tyler Huntley. Hate to say it, Miami, but you ain't winning shit with those two quarterbacks. Defense tried their absolute hardest. It's just hard to do so when you have an offense that can't generate any points besides field goals. Next we got Sean McDermott. He met expectations. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. As much as I want to put him in exceeded expectations, he definitely met them. Bills were supposed to be elite. I did not think they would be elite, but here they are being actually an elite, one of the best teams in the league, and they still can beat Mahomes in the playoffs. What is that, 4 or 5 straight years now that the Bills lose to the Chiefs and when it matters most? 2 seed in the playoffs, I believe they had a 14-3 or a 13-4 record, but regardless, yeah, they were one of the best teams in the league. Blew out the Broncos, beat the Ravens in a classic in a divisional round. Like, they had a handful of quality wins. Fortunately, they did lose to the Rams, though. Did I say the Rams? Yeah. It's more of like the Patriots at the end of the season when they had their backups. But a bad loss to Baltimore in the regular season, along with an absolute hell of a game against the Rams. But that also resulted in a loss. Kind of hurt them a little bit. Josh Allen is an MVP candidate. James Cook is a good running back. Defense has been very solid. It's just you need to get those aging veterans out of there and put some young guys in there as well instead of them. I feel bad for Sean McDermott. He was always sick and fiddle to Andy Reid's Chiefs. Just really sad to see as an NFL fan. Up next, we got Sean McVay. I would say more exceeded expectations, but just barely. I'm just kidding, not barely, like, they definitely exceeded expectations. If you told me the Rams would go 10-7 after a disastrous start, I would have called you nuts. But after those injuries to Kupp and Nakua, they absolutely turned up, especially on defense with rookies Jared Verse and Brandon Fisk. Secondary looks solid as well. Like I said before, linebackers need the most work put on them, but the offense is also elite as well. Just hope that LA Rams can get a younger quarterback to back up Stafford that can actually play well. But going 10-7 and almost beating the Eagles in the divisional round, that's an impressive feat, even for anybody who plays the Eagles. Yes, I know there are 3 teams that beat the Eagles, but in the playoffs against that roster that Philadelphia has, it's quite insane. Up next, we got my boy Raheem Morris. Right now, he's mid. I wouldn't say failed expectations. It's just, yeah, he's just a mid coach right now. Yes, I know he has a losing record still as a head coach, but this is only his first year as the actual head coach. I'm really excited to see what he does with the trio of Bijan, Michael Penix, and Drake London. 2,000-yard receivers. Kirk Cousins, like, he had a good start and then he completely went to shit. Michael Penix has looked good in the past few games. I'm just wondering what would have happened if he got subbed in earlier. And as for the defense, we had some bright spots, but we also had some big holes, especially in the pass rush. Hey, Terry, we had the second least amount of sacks this season. Like, sacks on defense. Get a defender, damn it! I mean in the draft, not in the free agency. I don't want those aging veterans. I want the young guys. But 8-9, first non-7-win season since 2017. No, 2020, really. Well, first above 7-win season since 2017, the last time the Falcons made the playoffs. Yep. I'm excited for what the future holds, though. Good luck, Raheem. Up next, we got Kevin O'Connell. This is the most absolute unanimous exceeded expectations I've ever seen. I mean, come on. I mean, no No one expected Minnesota to pull off what they just pulled off this season, minus the final 2 games of their season. When J.J. McCarthy went down in the preseason, everyone thought the season was over. But in comes Sam Darnold, and he turned into a Pro Bowler. He was an MVP candidate at one point, and then the final 2 games hit, and he kind of fell back down to earth. And Kevin O'Connell had a very big role in helping Sam Darnold get a lot better. Maybe he could do the same for Daniel Jones, who knows? But an incredible season regardless, 14-3. Fortunately, losing to the Rams in LA again. That was one of Minnesota's losses, besides the 2 to Detroit. But a spectacular season, not only offensively, but defensively as well. They had some studs on that defense as well, including Jonathan Greener, a Defensive Player of the Year candidate. Andrew Van Ginkel was also down there. There was also a secondary that played amazingly well, got some turnovers. And there was Ivan Pace as well, just to name a few on the defensive line that played pretty solidly as well. This team was a very well-balanced and really surprising teams on this entire thing. Next, we got Sean Payton. I gotta be honest here, yeah, he definitely exceeded expectations. No one was expecting Bo Nix to turn into a player that he is right now. Bo Nix had a struggling start, but then he started to adjust to the pro level, and he turned into a very solid quarterback like I predicted. Sean Payton coached a top 3 defense in the league, and one of the best passing offenses in the entire league as well. Well, one of top 15, top 20 sort of offense, so right down the middle. Fortunately, the rushing offense sucked ass. I don't know what happened to Javonte Williams, but he sucked. Imagine the Broncos get Cam Skattebo out of Arizona State, because we all know Dallas is going to get Ashley Genty. That would be crazy if the Broncos ended up getting Skattebo to fall right in their lap. This team could be an 11-win team next year if that happens. Props to you, Sean Payton. You proved me wrong yet again, and you still continue to make mine and other Falcons fans' lives miserable. Up next, we got Doug Peterson. Ass. Sorry, Doug, but yeah, you sucked this year. Trevor Lawrence went down with an injury. Travis Etienne was a shell of his former self. Tank Bixby had to carry the load. At least you got Brian Thomas at receiver. That looks very, very good. This team, oh boy. I think there was 5-12 or 6-11, but yeah, they were horrible. And it's all Peterson's fault. Yeah, you heard me. It's all his fault. And also the fact that Matt Jones doesn't know how to throw a football with some finesse. Up next, we got Antonio Pierce. I'm putting him in dealt a bad hand here. As soon as Josh Jacobs left, that offense was just fading to obscurity. They already did. Rushing game was awful. They had to cycle through 3 different quarterbacks. Receiving core was okay. I mean, they had Brock Bowers get an absolute spectacular season for a tight end. This kind of increases the value for Michael Mayer. However you want to say his last name. Defense looks pretty okay. It's just... they're pretty much just the Raiders. No offense, Raiders fans, but as far as recency, you guys are horrible. Up next, we got Dan Quinn of the Commanders. My boy, man, the guy who took us to a Super Bowl. And yes, it was 23. He definitely exceeded expectations. He built a defense that was actually spectacular, a top 10 unit or something like that. He had a good defensive line, good linebacker core in Louisville and Wagner. Defensive backs were pretty solid, but not great though. But the offense was where it really excelled. Terry McLaurin finally has a quarterback that can throw him the ball. Rushing game was pretty solid as well, but passing game was really where it was. Jaden Daniels is definitely the front runner for Offensive Rookie of the Year, and judging from the season, I can see why. This team went all the way to the NFC Championship game as a 6th seed and came so close. Just a shame they got blown up by Philadelphia in the championship game. But besides that game, This season was spectacular for Washington fans, and they are really hopeful for the future. I really do hope Dan Quinn continues to lead the Commanders to success. Up next, we got Andy Reid. Don't you dare say exceed expectations. This is definitely met expectations tier. Come on, man. Chiefs went 15-2 this season. Everybody was expecting the Kansas City to be coming out of the AFC as the champs, and they sure did. They kind of did give their fans a hard time, though, because there were a lot of close games involved. But, as they say, a win is a win, right? Obviously, offensively, they saved the best for the playoffs. Patrick Mahomes, not the greatest season, probably one of his worst regular seasons of his career, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter if he wins a ring. As far as the defense, that was literally the thing that was carrying the load besides the kicking unit. I'm giving the MVPs of this team to the kicking unit. They had a couple different kickers. They were actually the only team in NFL history to have 3 different kickers kick game winners, which is wild to hear that. Up next, we got D'Amico Ryan. Seriously? Another met expectations guy? Come on, man. Everyone was expecting this team to at least win a playoff game, have a pretty above average season. That is pretty much exactly what they did. CJ Stroud regressed from his rookie campaign. Fortunately, injuries did derail this team from being a good team. Well, on offense, rather, to Stephon Diggs and Tank Dell. But defensively, Will Anderson, man, he is looking like a Defensive Player of the Year candidate every single season goes by. And it's only been 2 years. The addition of Danielle Hunter as well really took the pressure off of him, and now offensive lines have to worry about him and Hunter. Like, who's going to stop them? You also got a very solid secondary. Derek Stingley Jr., just to name a few of the cornerbacks that played solidly, or at least the defensive backs, not corners. This team has been pretty solid, and I'm hoping for next season to see if they can, hit their stride and do even better. Only 7 coaches left to go. Next up, we got Robert Saleh. No, I'm not going to put him into S tier. He was the best coach for the Jets, and you damn know it. I'm putting him in failed expectations. Unfortunately, Rodgers was a fucking douchebag. He got Saleh fired, and he got the other GM fired as well. This is pretty much the Aaron Rodgers show. It's basically like LeBron James and the Lakers. Except that Doncic trade wasn't the GM. But still, 5-12. Robert Saleh didn't last the entire season. It wasn't exactly his fault, though. With him, the defense was actually pretty solid. It's just no quarterback can do well with the Jets' offensive line. Let me tell you that. Obviously not his fault, but he might as well be better off as a defensive coordinator at this point. He can't exactly coach an offense. Up next, we got Kyle Shanahan. He definitely failed expectations. 6-11 when they were supposed to be Super Bowl contenders? What the fuck? One thing to note, injuries. CMC only played 8 or 9 games. Defense has some very bad injuries as well. Brandon Ayuk had his season ended by an ACL. Yeah, it was just full of injuries and not pretty much else. Really hindered Brock Purdy's productions. At least some of the defensive stars like Bosa, Warner, and a couple of others actually look pretty good. Fortunately, this was a major step back from the Super Bowl appearance they had last year. Hopefully they can rebound in some sort of way. Next we got Nick Sirianni of the Philadelphia Eagles. I would put him at mid expectations, but because he's such an asshole, I'm going to put him in mid. Seriously. You know what? I got a special tier for Sirianni. Yep, that's the one we're going with. He's definitely not an ass coach, but man, he is an absolute dick. His cocky persona, him acting like a young teenager as a head coach. Yeah, and to not letting Saquon break the rushing yards record, man, I'm starting to hate this guy more and more. Literally the only thing I'm not cheering for the Philadelphia Eagles, because other than him, the Eagles, I really want them to make sure Kansas City does a 3-peat. It was really just the amount of talent that was on that Philadelphia team that got them to a 2 seed and a 14-3 record. It was literally just the talent. It was not the coaching. Saquon with 2,000 yards, like I was going to mention. Jalen Hurts, he had a solid season. He's not throwing the ball as much, but you don't have to when you got Saquon on your team. You also got the tush-push play. Defense, one of the best in the league. Hopefully Kansas City's offense can be hindered by that. This was the most complete team this season, and it wasn't even close. Just a shame they have an absolute young adult as a head coach. A young, over-egotistical, and overconfident son of a bitch of a coach. Ads are popping up everywhere, so I'm just going to cover this up so, I don't get flagged for paid promotion because I'm not getting paid to make these videos. I'm just doing them for fun. Anyways, next up we have Kevin Stefanski. He's not ass by any means. He's more of just failed expectations. Not much else. No, he's not an asshole. He's literally just failed expectations. Not his fault that Jimmy Haslam is a fucking idiot. The investment on Deshaun Watson is turning out to be terrible. It's already horrible, actually. Defense regressed a little bit, but they still got Denzel Ward and Myles Garrett on their team, so that's something to be hopeful for, at least for now. But the offense, the only bright spot was Jerry Jeudy getting a Pro Bowl nod. Nick Chubb's injury to Deshaun Watson's horrible play, to them switching around 3 different quarterbacks like Jameis Winston, DTR, and even Bailey Zappi. What? No wonder this team got the number 2 pick and a 4-13 record. This team was absolute ass. Should make a tier that says team is ass. But anyways, next we got Shane Steichen. I would say he met expectations. I mean, no one expected them to be good or bad, just somewhere down the middle. Just unfortunate that the quarterback position is an absolute clusterfuck because everything else on the team actually looks very good. It's a damn shame that it had to be like that. Unfortunately, 8 and 9 isn't really going to cut it, especially with a bad quarterback. You're going to need to go find a veteran, find some leadership or something. Up next, we got Zach Taylor. I will say he was mid. He wasn't bad, he wasn't great, but he's just somewhere down the middle. Just sucks when you have a bad defense that hinders an elite offense. Yeah, that's why they had a losing record. Just sucks because Joe Burrow, if he had a very much better defense, he would have been MVP, no question. But unfortunately, he doesn't. We live in reality, and the Bengals had an absolute abysmal defense. Not completely on Zach Taylor, but yeah, that 8-9 season isn't really exactly going to be in the light of the general manager. He's not going to really give you a pay cut or an extension that way. You're going to need another year to really fix that, especially the defenders. Defenders are supposed to look solid. I mean, Trey Hendrickson was the league leader in sacks. Like, Geno Stone, everybody wrote him off, but he turned out to be pretty decent defensive back. Cam Taylor-Britt as well. Yeah, it's just, you need to fix the defense through free agency and draft at this point. Not much else really to say about it. And last but not least, we got Mr. Mike Tomlin. Yeah, as much as I want to put him in mid, he's just... Yeah, actually, you know what? Nah, let's put him in mid. Asshole tier is just completely exclusive for Sirianni. I would put Tomlin in asshole because, he benched Justin Fields despite him actually playing well and not letting him have a chance to develop his passing game. That kind of made me want to put him in asshole, but he definitely met expectations, but not exactly because of him. One of the best defenses in the league, led by T.J. Watt, Minka Fitzpatrick, Alex Highsmith, and a bunch of others. There was also an offense that consisted of 2 quarterbacks, Fields and Wilson. George Pickens, he got injured. He also got suspended, maybe fined, for his antics. Najee Harris looks like a shell of his former self. But receiving core wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great. Passing game wasn't that great either. This team was literally just built on a great defense and a subpar to mid offense. I think everyone was expecting him to not get very far in the playoffs. I'm very sure they were right. And yes, his above 500 streak still continues. And this is my tier list. Let me know your opinions on this. Don't slander me just because I put a certain coach in a certain tier. Just give me your opinions. I'll take on any feedback, man. Constructive, maybe. Constructive will be beneficial, but leave any feedback that you wish. But this is my final head coach tier list for at least this season, the reviews for this season. And with that, that is going to be the end of this episode of Grizzly Talks Football. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you smash that like button, hit the red subscribe button, it's somewhere down there. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss a single one of my videos. This is the Grizz, and until next time, I will see you guys later. Peace!